get started, for those of you, if you don't know who I am, I'm Chastity Craft. I've been here, I think, about 4 years or so. I'm a literacy consultant. Before I came to KVEC, I did teach 20 years in special ed. All 20 years student teaching, all that was all in special ed. And I've been from the high school level all the way down to preschool doing DD. They moved me all around because it was like an itinerant position at that point. And I also served, I was getting ready to say served time. Look at it. I was in the autism unit for a year. And so before that, the reason they put me in the autism unit is because I had some kids that had autism that I just served, normally. And then that's like, since you did such a good job with that, let's put you in the autism unit. So I've had a lot of experience in the classroom, and then now I get to focus on, and I'll just focus on the reading now. So that's a little bit of background about myself. And so we're going to get right into it because I do have a lot of things for you guys about this. So we're just looking about teaching all about foundational skills in reading. So what we're going to touch on today is the research, and it's just talk about why foundational skills are so important, talk about phonology, how that relates to reading and spelling, and phonemic awareness and phonics. And that starts as you all know, just your foundations. If you don't have those, you might as well just quit. Okay, so going into the research real quick. Okay, so everything goes back to the National Reading Panel. If anything is, you talk about the research-based, any program, any philosophy, anything like that, always goes back to the National Reading Panel. And it was done in 2000, but that is, the information is still true today, and that's what we go back to. And they have identified 5 key concepts for reading, to be for reading literacy, reading and writing instruction. So do you all know what those 5 components are? Can you name them? I'll give you a hint. The first one is phonemic awareness. The second one's phonics. And then we have and then we have vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And what I like about this graphic is that you have, the way it's showing, the comprehension is around it. So really, the reason why we teach reading, the ultimate goal is to comprehend text, or we want our kids or us to be able to read things in the world around us, read information to learn and comprehend it. So all of these things that we start out doing is ultimately to reach comprehension. And this foundation, and this is built, these are the basic foundation, the phonemic awareness and phonics, before you can even get to the fluency part, because they got to be able to decode. And to be able to decode, they got to be aware of the sound. So it's really cool. I can kind of geek out on that all day. But
see, I can get excited over this because I do.
Yeah, I yes.
Because I'm always concerned real quick, but like say for instance, I got a student and they just learned their ABCs and their sound and their letters and everything like that. So the next step, I don't know the next step to that. Do I go ahead and do give them sight words, or do I do? I mean, what would be my next step?
All right, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
And I love this. So all your questions, so that you can get to the end. If I haven't answered your questions, please let me know, because this is, like you said, I love your feedback. So this I want to touch on a little bit is some more of the research. It's called the Simple View of Reading. Have you guys seen this before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. The research is not new, but you know how things are starting to buzz a little bit. So this is kind of coming up to sight. And again, it does go back to those 5 components. But the simple view of reading is really like a multiplication problem. You have word recognition times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. So what that says is basically you have to have both word recognition, which in that piece is your decoding, your phonemic awareness, blending, all of those things. that falls under word recognition. But then you also got to have that language comprehension, that you have to know what those words mean of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I had a student one time that she she kind of fell under the radar at first because she could read anything you gave her. I mean, you hand her the dictionary in the 4th grade and she could read whatever. She had no idea what she was reading because she didn't know what the words meant.
Oh.
So she did not have this language comprehension. So she didn't have any reading comprehension because she was saying words, but she didn't know what they meant. And then the same thing with the opposite. And that's why this is a visual here. You can have, if you have this one, but not the language, then you're not going to have any reading comprehension. And the same thing for like your LD students, okay? Most true, well, not most, but all true students with a specific learning disability and reading are very intelligent. They just cannot, like your kids with dyslexia, it's a thing. It's a decoding issue. It's not an intelligence issue. So they have the word knowledge, and they have a high level of word meanings, but they can't decode them. So they also are not going to have any reading comprehension. They have a lot of listening comprehension skills because they learn that, but to read it, they have none because they can't decode it. And then if you have a little bit of word recognition, a little bit of language, then your reading comprehension is not going to be very high. So I just like that. And then I love breaking it down even further, one more piece, because it all ties back together. So this is Scarborough's rope of reading and how it connects to the 5 components of reading. Okay, and again, then you're going to see the simple view of reading as well. Word recognition here, okay, it connects to your phonemic awareness and phonics for the 5 components, and then it's broken down into, you have your phonological awareness, decoding, and then your sight recognition all falls under this category. And then up here's your vocabulary and your comprehension. So with language, it's your background knowledge, vocabulary, language structure, all of those things also, which is the red box in the simple view. So I love this visual, how it shows how they have to come together as they develop these skills and develop this fluency. And then at the end, then they're able to have that reading comprehension. So it takes, reading is so complex, and that is why kids have such a hard time figuring it out. Okay, so now we're going to play a little Kahoot game. Does everybody have their phones with them? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because we have a lot, look at all these words. We have phonology, we have phoneme, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics. And that's all. So what does all this mean? So I want to, the Kahoot game that I have is really just the definitions. I want to see if you just kind of know what the differences are, because I know these 2 are 2 big ones that people get confused and use simultaneously a lot of times. So let's go ahead and play my little game here. Okay, so if you can reach that QR code, or you can just join, go to the Kahoot website right here and join with a pen. But if your phone will scan this QR code, that will be the easiest.
Want me to get you, baby? Is everybody here? Jean.
Ooh, there we go.
I need to go through that process here.
So I think it's set for 30 seconds for each question. And And really, as far as the question is like, they're all like, what does it mean? So just look at, I'm trying to help you with the just look at the word and then your choices. Okay, are we ready? No, we got one more.
Wait just a minute. 1 5. I can't see it. Leave it shipping one. Is that right? 0 9. What did I get wrong? You know. You put your name. I don't see it first.
I'm slow.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Oh, yay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. What is phonology? Can you all see that actually?
No.
The relationships between letters and sounds, awareness of sound structure, the study of the sound system, or ability to manipulate individual phonemes and words.
Actually, I can't even see it. It's awful.
So the relationship.
Ah.
Okay, I'll read it.
We're so sorry, honey.
I'll read it. I'll read it out loud too. There's no way I could see that if I was standing sitting back there. There's no way. Okay, phoneme. What does phoneme mean? Ability to manipulate individual phonemes, the smallest unit of sound in spoken language. Awareness of sound structure, or the study of sound system and how it functions in language. The word phoneme.
Gosh, y'all are blue. What would be?
It's yellow.
Okay.
The smallest.
That's what I thought.
Why is it? Oh, okay. That's what I said. Why is it? There we go. Okay. The next one, phonological awareness. Phonological awareness. The ability to manipulate individual phonemes, the smallest unit of sound, the awareness of sound structure of words, or the study of a sound system and how it functions. Phonological awareness.
Should be reading blue. It's reading blue.
And
Good job.
that's why I did this, because they're really confusing. Okay, phonemic awareness. The awareness of sound structure, the study of sound system and how it functions, the relationship between letters and sounds, or the ability to manipulate individual phonemes. Phonemic awareness.
I'm gonna go home. But I thought phoneme. I thought it was the phoneme. You know, phoneme and the grapheme. I mean, that's letter and sound correlate together. I don't know. I'm overthinking. I'm bad to do that.
What was the correct answer? I can't see it.
No,
We're gonna go over that.
Oh, okay. Can't read it.
Okay, I think. Okay, phonics. Last one. What does phonics mean? The relationship between written letters and sounds, the ability to manipulate individual phonemes, the smallest unit of sound, and the awareness of sound structure of words.
It's okay. We're still on summer break too, so.
And I don't know if you all had time to notice, but all of my pictures that I put in there has the phone or phono in the picture. Okay, this was really, I'm glad we did this because.
We needed it.
Well, I mean, it'll be good discussion.
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
Okay. 3 out of 5.
Oh, the spotlight.
Oh,
Angie.
You have pancakes on your head? Pancakes on your head? Right.
Okay, so now let's go back and let's talk about these definitions real quick. Okay, the first one was phonology. Okay, so this is just a study, because let's look, so phono means sound, and ology, what does that mean? The study of. So this is the study of sounds. So this is the whole sound structure, all of it. Okay? And then phoneme, I think everybody got that one, is the smallest unit of sound. Now the differences between these two, and this is one I want to focus on a little bit because it gets real confusing. So phonological awareness is, and I had to condense the wording for my game because it only allows you so much, but I personally like these words. It says conscious awareness or sensitivity to the sound. So basically what that means is just being able to hear the different sounds. Now, phonological awareness includes words, syllables, and phonemes. So phonological awareness is being able to hear the difference between when I'm talking that I'm speaking words into sentences. So if I say, how are you today? Then I can hear that I have how are you today, that I have 4 words, the differences. Okay. And then if I break down a word into, like if, like my name is Chastity, then I break my name into T is 3 syllables. I can hear those different syllables. So, and then also the individual phonemes. So the phonological, it covers all of it. Words, syllables, and sounds. Phonemic awareness is specific to the sounds, which is what this is. Phoneme is the sound, and so awareness of sounds and being able to manipulate those. So like when we talk about if I have the word tug, I take t away and put what do I have? So that's manipulating those individual sounds. That's phonemic awareness. And then the last one is the letter sound association. That's phonics. Any questions about that? Okay.
Very informative. I mean, just this little bit helps a whole lot, you know?
Yeah.
It does.
Okay, so the next thing too is how important, and I'm gonna be honest, that little graphic I have, it's a little freaky on me. I couldn't find one I really like, but I went with this one. But the importance of letter sounds. We want to talk about when we're teaching kids reading to correctly pronounce the letters. And I know with our dialect and things like that, we have to be really careful, but we have to be conscious of that and very cognizant to make sure that we pronounce those words correctly. And we don't have to, because I know from experience, kids will like, well, I don't talk like that. That's just how. I was like, you're right. We don't sometimes, but when we're doing reading and we're doing these sounds, it's really important for you to be able to know the sound and blend them. And then when you're talking, then I talk about the pragmatics and stuff like that. But so you just try to talk to them and explain to them. We have to be able to keep that separate. So I do have this. It's a video that shows, she goes through how to pronounce the letters, and then also focus.
Hi, I'm Yvette, a facilitator at the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. You probably already know the English language has very distinct sounds, or phonemes, that we combine in different ways to make words. In this video, we are going to demonstrate how to pronounce each of the individual phonemes. Often, we accidentally add an extra or schwa sound to the end of consonants. If students hear this and imitate it, it may then be reflected in later reading and writing tasks. To prevent this, it is important to produce only the phoneme itself without any additional sounds. An example of this is the sound p. Sometimes, when teachers are trying to emphasize or isolate a phoneme, they say p. Instead, focus on producing just the phoneme itself. We'll start with the consonant phonemes. You'll see the associated letter or letter combination, also known as a grapheme, on the screen as I say the sound. Ready? Here we go. B as in banana. D as in dinosaur. F as in fish. G as in guitar. H as in hand. J as in jelly. K as in car. U as in leaf. M as in Monday. N as in nail. Ng as in the end of the word sing. P as in pumpkin. R as in rain. S as in sun. J as in the middle of treasure. T as in turtle. V as in volcano. W as in watch. Y as in yo-yo. Z as in zip. Some graphemes, such as Q and X, are composed of two phonemes. For example, Q makes the Q sound, and X makes the X sound. The next phonemes are considered to be digraphs, where two letters make one sound. Ch as in child. Sh as in shoes. Th as in the middle of mother. Th as in third. Make sure students hear you pronounce phonemes correctly. You're modeling the language that they need to independently decode and write words. Just like the consonants, the English language has a wide variety of vowel phonemes with their own distinct sounds. I'll model each sound, and the grapheme will be shown on the screen below. A as in the first sound in apple. E as in the first sound in elephant. I as in the first sound in igloo. A as in the first sound in octopus. As in the first sound in umbrella. A as in the middle sound in rain. As in the final sound in saw. E as in the final sound in tree. I as in the middle sound in light. O as in the middle sound in boat. U as in the first sound in uniform. Oo as in the middle sound in mood. As in the middle sound in book. Ow as in the final sound in cow. Oi as in the final sound in boy. There are also R-controlled vowels, such as R as in the final sound in car. As in the middle sounds in heard, bird, and surf. Air as in the final sound in chair. Ear as in the final sound in spear. Or as in the middle sound in fork. Sometimes, when a vowel sound is located in the unstressed syllable of a word, it becomes a schwa. An example of this is the that you hear as in the first sound of the word again. Make sure that your students hear you model the correct consonant and vowel phonemes. This will help them produce the correct sounds themselves, and in turn, guide them as they learn to read and write.
Okay, so I know that it takes a little bit longer, but I like to play that because there's some of those that we think we know them, but then when we're teaching them, then it's a little bit different. And I know for me, even like knowing it and like physically producing it is so difficult. But we did the best we can on that. Okay, So another one when you're teaching the letter sounds is not only to pronounce the word correctly, but also have the students pay attention to the mouth, what it looks like. The use of mirrors is really a really good idea. I actually had some ordered to give y'all today. They did not come in, but I do recommend. And like the ones I ordered, there's on Amazon. You know those little compact mirrors you put in your purses. You can get a whole bulk of them. I think there was a 24 was like $15 if y'all have school money or something like that. But I do recommend having those for your reading lesson. And then, and we're going to go into the sound types, but just because a lot of times students, if they can't hear, because there's some sounds that are so close together as far as pronunciation, like, and the only difference is the voice and the unvoiced. The mouth placement is the same. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So if you have look at those physical characteristics, then that would help them to be like, well, I can't really hear the difference, but I know that on this one, my vocal cords are vibrating, and then on the it's not. So, you know, it's just another added layer of something that the kids can use to identify those sounds. So I want to speed up talking just a little bit because I have a lot of fun stuff at the end. So if I go too fast, slow me down a little bit. But I do want to get to some of the activities. So we have continuous sounds and then stop sounds. Okay, continuous ones we call them, they're stretchable. Like I mean, you can say that forever. It can go on as long as you have air. So they could be, you know, filled out. These are the easiest ones for children to blend first, are the continuous ones. So when you start blending and using phonics, use those type of sounds first because it's easier for them to it naturally goes together. The stop sounds, they're just real quick, like, you know, it makes you stop, you can't stretch it out. And then, so those are the ones that we want to add the schwa sound or the at the end of them. And then it talks about the voice and the unvoiced, which we'll get into. Okay, so the next one is the voice. So basically, like you said, just your cords, vocal cords vibrating or not. So with that, when you're teaching those sounds, actually have the students put their fingers up to their throat and be able, when they say those sounds, and describe to them about being able to hear it, you know, the vibration or the not. And then for the continuous ones, just a movement, you know, we can, like the continuous ones that can stretch them out. So, you know, that could be like a visual cue if a student's having trouble, just to be able to stretch them. And then for the stop signs, or stop sounds, you could do like just put your hand up, or, you know, if you want to have like a stop sign as a visual cue, something like that. And that's just a little reminder for them. Okay, so this is like a chart. Well, I mean, it is a chart, it's not like one. And we have categorized all the sounds into the voiced or continuous and stop, and whether they're voiced or unvoiced. Now, the easiest, the harder, and the hardest, that is referring to being able to blend, not pronounce the sound. Okay? So, for example, let's try these. I mean, we won't go through all of them just for time's sake, but let's just, so that you guys can just really draw your attention to it. So all of your vowels are continuous and voiced. So let's put our fingers on our throat, and let's just start out with the A. So let's everybody say A. A. So you can feel that, and we can sit there and go A for as long as we have breath. Okay. So let's go to the L. And now then going back to the mouth movements, then you can say, okay, when you're describing the child of how to pronounce the O, then you want to literally tell them, it's like, okay, you want to put your tongue, it's going to be on the back of your teeth, okay, and then it is a voiced, so you're going to be using your vocal cords, so you should be able to hear it. And then, so you're going to put your fingers on your throat, your tongue on the back of your teeth, and then you're just going to go, oh, oh. Okay. Now, this one, if you notice, you got one here and one's got the line through it. So this one is the voiced TH. So that one's going to be the like this, you know. So you can go through when you introduce each sound or each letter of the alphabet. When you go over those, go through this whole thing about the sound, because I know when you get to the level that you guys are at elementary, especially middle school kids, you know, you can't focus. I mean, phonemic awareness is vital, critical in order for kids to read. But we also got to push them to read. I mean, I had the last grade that I had before I come here was 4th and 5th grade. So I had students still doing this stuff, but I was also having to get them ready for 5th grade content. So you combine a lot of that. So you're talking about doing the phonemic awareness stuff, but also you can kind of combine that together just to kind of get more bang for your buck. So, okay, so then you go through all of those, and then this is your, you know, the ng sound, like in sing, and then these down here. Oh yeah, I forgot about the QX. QX goes outside the box because, like she said in that video, it is, I mean, it's 2 sounds together. So it doesn't, they fall outside of the chart. And then it has the x, you know, you can bring that to their attention as well. And then this is something I recently learned, that these are called diphones. You know how we have the digraphs, that's 2 letters, 1 sound. So this is, diphones would be what? 2 sounds, 1 letter. So I thought, well, you know, I love morphology. I love it. Like, I geek out on it. Okay, now we're going to get into phonemic awareness. Okay, now real quick, just because anytime that I start going into talking about it, I just want a gentle reminder that before you start teaching anything, you want to do a little formative assessment to see where your kids are before you start teaching, because you don't want to waste your time or theirs. You want to see exactly. And the hard copy, I gave you guys a hard copy there just to have, but also there's a link. This PowerPoint slide deck, it will be in on that placemat. There's a resource folder. I said I'm one of those teachers. I did not put my slide deck in there beforehand because I had my questions and stuff, and I didn't want to give you all the answers before you come in here. So, but it will. I have it ready. I'm just going to drag it in, so you guys will have access to this. So all the links and stuff, you can have it.
Okay.
But okay, so now we're going to get into some phonemic awareness activities. Now, I want to say that going back to, you know, we have to, with our time, we have a lot. We've got to give our kids so much stuff, so many skills. So with this one, and going back to the National Reading Panel, they had concluded that if you focus on just 2 skills, if you have to, because you know you got rhyme, you got syllabication, you know, all of that. But if you focus on 2 skills, those 2 skills have been proven to be the most effective to be able for kids, and this is what I'm talking about, phonemic awareness, to be able to transfer that to reading and spelling. Okay, can you all guess what those 2 skills would be? The one would be blending, being able to blend the sounds. And then the other one is segmenting, because your blending goes to decoding for phonics, and the decoding leads to reading. The segmenting leads to encoding, which leads to spelling, which is writing. So everything goes back to blending and segmenting, period. Okay, so this one, just again for time's sake, this link right here, this is an example of a PA activity that the teacher does in small group. It's really cute. If we have time at the end, we'll go back, but when you all get this slide deck, you can just click on that link and watch. It's only about 2 or 3 minutes, but she does a really good job just doing a little phonemic awareness activity. It's small group. Like I said, I think it's like 2.5 minutes, and then she rolls on. So, but when you do watch it, kind of look too, it's like, I mean, it's good, but what else could you do, or what could you do differently? Because there was a couple of things in there, I was like, okay, you know, she could do this or this. So just kind of think about that when you watch it. Okay, so now you guys have sound boxes or Elkona boxes there. So we're going to practice with that a little bit. Now, I gave you two different kinds, and it's really just a personal preference. The one is like the official Elkona boxes like this, you know, and you can do it. And then the other one is just real generic like this. So it does not matter. I just gave you both. I like both. I will say that if I was doing this with a student, I would not hand them the whole sheet of paper. Whatever, if you're working on, I mean, you could do, like if you're working on a couple of different sounds, if you're doing like a 3 or 4 sound, you can, you know, do like one side or the other. Just don't overwhelm them, I guess is what I'm saying, because.
Pass cards.
Yes, yeah. And you could, because that would just be really overwhelming. Okay, so with that being said, you will need your chips and your cards. And we're going to practice. So, and then at this one you can do so Elkona boxes, and you'll see when we get to phonics, can be used for phonics as well. So again, depending on your student level, they may need just this part first, because this part does not include the letters that go with it. This is them being able to hear the sounds. And it's a good idea to be able to, even in your reading lesson, if you just have 20 minutes with them with your session, because it's a 30-minute block. By the time you walk and go get them and come back and all that stuff, it's about 20 minutes. So, you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to they need just a minute or two just to kind of do these 1 or 2 just to reinforce that, and then move straight into whatever reading list, the other part of the reading block that you need to do. All right, so we're going to practice. Got my words here. Now, one thing too to stress is that, and since you guys, you know, are the accelerated learners, I'm going to mix it up. So it might be a 3-letter word sound, or I keep saying letters, but sounds, or 5. But the important thing to know is that these are sound boxes, not letter boxes. So like for the first word is going to be mop. Okay, so we're going to take your coins, and when you say mop, okay, so mop, and then they push them, mop. So when you say mop, and then when they go and do op, are they blending then, or are they segmenting them? If I tell you mop, and then they go, op, are they blending them, or are they segmenting them?
They segment.
Yeah. And then at the end, after they segment it, and then they blend them, and then they can blend them back together at the end. So it'd be mop. Okay, so then the next one is going to be, and you want to do this with the ones that are a little bit advanced, because if you can give them the word shop. Okay, now we know it's S-H-O-P, which is 4 letters. But so you tell them, how many sounds do you hear in shop?
3.
How? Sh, ah, 3. And they do the same thing. You know, they push the coin for each sound that they do. Yeah. And then that's why I put this one up here, like the sheet is to be, to focus on. This is focusing on sounds only, not letters. All of these activities are. Now, also, one that is confusing is when you get to the big one are the blends. Okay, so let's look at, if I said trip, okay, so, and you say, how many sounds does the word trip have?
I don't want to put that T-in-R either, trust.
Because it's a blend, right? So you want to say it 3. But what is a blend? What's the definition of a blend? It's two sounds combined. Okay, so when you're doing that, because the purpose of this activity is for them to hear each sound. So we do well, it's So with this, you want them to separate that because it is two separate sounds, and you want them to go trip. Okay, and then the same thing with if you had the bigger one with the word like strap, because that's a 3-letter blend. Strap. Yeah, STR. And so you would do the same thing. Okay. Now, one thing, it's kind of like a little aha moment that I had not long ago, and it was talking about, and it kind of goes back to research and talking about just what we talked about with the blends and things. Because of that, sometimes in scope and sequences, depending on the program that you use, they want you to do individual letters, and then they want to you want to do the blends and the digraphs and all that. They recommend, and it makes sense, to not teach blends, because if they already know and they already know they're going to know ter. And so with that, if you just kind of do it that way, and if you do it this way, then you can cut the blends out as far as a whole lesson on the blends, and then move on. Those other
Okay,
things.
I'm just confused real quick. So like as teaching, because we teach the blends, I didn't know not to. So like the TR, you come up on it, you want to try to put it together as a blend. See, I wouldn't know distinguish the difference. Do you get what I'm saying? If I'm teaching my child, so I should just go ahead and do away with the blends.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, they're saying, you've already, though, if you're teaching a blend, you can say that, you can do the blend, say this is a blend.
Yeah.
But they already know and they already know those sounds.
Yes.
So when they're doing that, it's like, and it goes back to, you're technically blending the whole word anyway.
Right.
But it's just, that helps with kind of fluency. Just to helps them pick
There
up
don't
on
need
that.
to be a whole session over blends.
Right, you just tell them that's a blend,
Yeah.
go on, because they already know.
Yeah,
Right.
a light touch per se,
Right.
and then move on.
Okay. That's good to know.
So yeah, very good questions. So and then so on that, and like with this one, like I said, so you were giving them the whole word and they were separating it, and then and it shows like and you'll see in that little video. Then then you flip it on, and then you say, okay, if I say act, what word do I have? And so then the students have to take those sounds that you give them, and then they blend them. And then the finger tapping is a good way for them to do the, just have that movement and that touch to blend. So they do act, cat. Which my example didn't correspond with what I said with continuous sounds, but if I said mop, so if I said mop, well, let's think about that for a second. So cat, because that's just something we say, it's a common example. But those are all the I, but the C and the T are the stop sounds. So act. But if I say mop, it's easier. Mop. So that's why they say to start with those. So
Makes sense.
okay, so any more questions or comments about that before we move on to phonics? Okay. All right. So now, same thing with the phonics. I just would like to throw that in there. I always start with, and that's another, you all have a copy of this screener.
Okay.
And then there's also a digital copy that's in your resource folder that's on that placemat. It's just, you want to know where your kids are, before you start just teaching stuff. So, and you can also use those for, progress monitoring as well. Okay, so when you're teaching phonics, now, literally, I could do 3 hours just on phonics, so I'm just trying to cram all this into an hour. Because how you get, like I said, you get passionate, you slow it. But anyway, so this part right here is all a review. So this is reinforcing after you've already introduced a lesson. Okay, so you have a 3-part drill, I like to call it, that you do with your kids every day at the beginning. So you can come out and you do a quick PA activity. Okay, and this is real quick because it's a review. If they don't know it immediately, then you make yourself a little note. but regardless if they know it or not, you go on because you got to get to the new concept. Okay, so with the visual drill, and then you have an auditory and then the blending. Now, over here, I wanted to give you different examples of blending boards. You have, and some of you that's went for recipe for reading, you know, you'll have these with the cards. You can use your pocket charts with cards, whatever. But these links in here, you have, there's like, and this is really cool, if you want to do it digitally, but and these are all just themes, but you can just click on it and then you have, and your little unicorn, and then it blends. Pop.
Well, that is
Yeah, and then there's the car one. Act. Sat.
I love.
Isn't that cool? So that link is in there for you. Now, that's on the IMSC website. You may have to make an account, but it's free as far as to do that. And then the other one is from UFly, which is also free. And also, and girls, I'm doing a UFly. I'm doing a UFly training on August the 1st here. It's all about the foundations, phonics. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. And if you come, you get the manual, the letters, and a magnetic tray. And when you go back, you will be able to implement full UFly. August the 1st. I will. We have a registration out. If you're interested, I can get your all's emails from the summer registration. I can just send you the direct link so you guys can register if you want. I can do that for you.
I think August 1st is mandated, ain't it? August 1st and 2nd for us. It is.
Oh, do you all have something else to go?
With the district, I'm thinking the 1st and 2nd, isn't it?
Might look bit more.
Oh, okay. You may have, but you may talk to us, like, if you tell them what it is, they may let you come.
I mean, I really need
So I'll send you the link, it's got the information, and then, if you all can, because it's great. Okay, so this is a virtual blending board that you can use too. So you pick, you just click on them. And then, and then it gab. And then if you want, you can just change, like that. So that's your virtual blending board for that one. So that one, that's all of that. Really, really cool. Now the visual drill, okay, to go, now again, these are reviews. So you want to keep a stack of all the letters that you've done, no more than 15 at a time. If you've done more letters, you want to just kind of switch them out every so often, weekly probably, every couple sessions or something like that, because and for our kids, more opportunities to practice over and over, because you all know as well as I do, it's like 51st dates most of the time with our kids. So you got to make sure that you have that in for them. So with the visual drill, again, you can if you just have just your cards, if you're at your table, just flip them. And what you're doing is you're giving them the card, and then they're going to say, they need to say the name of the letter and then say the sound. You can say, like this is say, and then they'll go, C. And then I know it, and when I do it with mine, sometimes it's hard to get them on the same track. But I started doing just a motion, a visual cue from me. Be like I put it up, and then I'll go, and then every time I do that, then they'll say it, and you do it really just so that they can all say it together because it's a review. But then also what you can do is if you want to put it up on the board, then you can just do this and just go through it real quickly. So we'll go through, and then what we'll do is we'll say the letter, and then we'll say the sound. And I'll just do this. I'll do 1 and 2, okay? So what's the letter?
D, the, E, P,
Whoops, sorry. Okay. And then you just go through, each of those. Okay, I didn't realize I put that much in there, but so it's the same thing. Again, those are all reviews, so you just go through them really, really quick. And then I did not use the virtual ones when I was in the classroom, but I did the cards, and I just really easily, And like I said, if there were any hesitation on them, I told them what the letter was and I put it in the no pile. I had a yes pile and no pile. And then that's why I knew if we needed to go back and do a reteach on those. Then your auditory ones is the same thing. So this is, you're going to use your marker boards. So this time, I'm going to say the sound. You guys are going to write the letter on here. So this is auditory. So there that you see it, and now you're going to hear the sound. Okay? So, and then it's one of those, you write it, and then everybody just flip it up at the same time. So then with this one, okay, ah. Okay, and what's the letter, guys?
A.
Okay, good. And then S. S. What's the letter?
S.
Okay, so then you go through that, all of your reviews. So that's your auditory drill. Okay, and then we did the blending board. I showed you that just a couple of those links. So that's kind of just real quick, going through 3 to 4 minutes to do all 3 of those, and you're moving on. Now, new concept is, let me see how far along I am, because sometimes I get panicked that I'm going to run out of time, and then I rush through it, and then we end up with time left. But with a new concept, when you're teaching phonics, it's a whole process. Like I said, it's a whole lesson, lesson and things like that. So normally when I teach phonics or train on phonics, we go into all of these. We don't have time for that, but I do just wanted to just kind of point out, when you introduce a new concept, that the first thing that you need to do, of course, is it's that direct instruction, direct teaching. Just modeling it, let that guided practice. So, and just really be really explicit, and going back to like when we were talking about the mouth formation, really take your time and going into detail about how those letters are formed, what sound it makes, and what it looks like and things like that, because those are all you're building that foundation for that sound and for that kid. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't really have time because you want to introduce it and move on. But in reality, what you're doing is missing those critical pieces. If we slow down and take a few minutes and go into that explicit direct teaching at the beginning, then they'll get it better and be able to retain it before they move on. And then, of course, your guided practice, which is the we do part. You're going to have them do all that, which what we're going to do today is the guided practice. And then, of course, the extended practice, that's just independently. It will be more of the same activities that we do, but they can just do it with a partner or do it at their table or at their seat by themselves. And then this one right here is really, really, really important, is reading that decodable or connected text. And I was guilty of it myself. You get to the end of the lesson and you're like, oh gosh, we don't have time. And so we didn't do it all the time. But it's just so vital for them to be read that connected text because of the fluency and the comprehension. And also, a kid may know the word on a flashcard, an individual word, but if they see it in a sentence or a paragraph, they don't recognize it. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, we just went over these words, and then it's the same word. Wow, And that's why, because they can't transfer that into that connected text. So being able for them to practice with those decodable readers is vital for them to have that fluency and comprehension. And also, which I have, there's a list of like decodable readers that I can put in there, but I also have digital copies of decodable readers that they're not in that folder yet, but I will drop those in there for you. It's through, I think it's through the IMSC, the same company for the blending boards. So whatever, you can pull that up, but that will be in your resource folder, so you can have access to those. Okay, now, how many times, well, you as a student, or when teacher, or heard the statement that says, oh yeah, or from a parent that says, oh yeah, my son knows all his ABCs. He knows them because he can say the ABC song, and they know them. I mean, I'm like, baby. So anyway, and then they're just flabbergasted when you give them that phonics screener, and they're like, your baby don't know any of those letters. And they're like, yeah, they sing that all the time. So to know a letter, you have to be able to name it. You got to be able to recognize it in print and not in order, ABC order. You know, it has to be randomly. They have to know the sound it makes. And then lastly, they have to be able to write it. They got to form the letter. That's why reading and writing is so important to be taught at the same time. Because how many times can, they might be able to read it, but they can't write it. And so it does no good. So if they have to be able to have all four of those in order to say that they know a letter. Okay, so now we're going to get into the phonics strategies and play around with that a little bit. And again, this right here, it's free. It's on the UFly website, and so it's the word work. And you have a beginner and the intermediate level that you. And you don't even have to have an account with this. I mean, it's just there. And then with that, and what's cool about it is this one, now I would use this for modeling. You wouldn't want I wouldn't want the kids to manipulate this. You want them to actually have letters and chips and things. So if, you're working on, okay, and then you just drag it, which, you probably want to do that. Okay, and then, so dig, okay, and then okay, so you have dig, all right? If I take away the D and add a P, what word do I have? Yeah. And so you just, you can manipulate it however you want to. So I really like this, and then this button just clears the board for you, and you can do other ones. The intermediate, it's the same thing, it's just got the harder sounds. So, this one it's cool because you can pick, like if you go over here to the question, no. They give you a video on how to use it on that. But they're broken into, so like if you're working on just the AI, so you can put the AI here and then just keep AI and just do the random, the other letters that go around with it. So really, really cool on that. Okay, now the other two that we're going to look at are that uses your boards and then the boxes. Now for this one, and again, the other one, like going back to this right here, if they're doing, when you're doing this activity, this is where you want them to have actual, like the letters, the magnetic letters, or just letters, plastic ones. It just had like a little tray, and they had the letters there together, and then they don't have to have a tray, it just helps with organization. Magnetic would be great. They didn't come in time, but they will be here for UFly, so if you come to UFly, you want to get them. But it's the same thing, so then they can see, they can, because how kids, they'll fall on the floor and all that, so magnetic is best. And you can, just in that way they can just move and manipulate those letters. So all of that kind of, and then so you can do that with your guided practice, and then going down to that extended practice, you can just give them some directions, because you don't want to give them the word, but say, okay, you start out with pig, and then you can literally say, okay, take the P away and add a M, and then, and that would just have that printed out, or, just some kind of organization that. Or you can just stand up in your whole group and you can give them the directions and they can move it themselves without you having your model there. Okay, so then with that, now I want to show you on your marker boards. Now, and again, it kind of goes along, this and this is kind of goes along together. The boxes is really just a scaffold for the kids, if they need it. So for example, and this is another cool little trick that I learned too about drawing the boxes. Okay, so here's my word list here. So if you're using boxes, then the purpose you want them to be able to draw. If they need this, give it to them. Okay, but then you want to move to having them draw the boxes themselves. So if I give you the word, we'll just start out with an easy one and say gum. Okay, gum. How many sounds do you hear in gum? Gum. 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw 3 boxes. Now what you do when you draw those boxes, you draw your first box, okay? But now to draw the next 2, you do this. What this does is develop muscle memory and just like a cue for their brain that you're blending it. So you're going to next start here and connect it. So, and then you're going to draw 3 like that. So that just like, oh, but it's all connected because they're going to pull together to make a word. Okay, so now gum. What's the first sound that you hear in gum? G. What letter is that? What letter makes the g sound? G. Okay, let's put G in the first box. Now this is how you would do it at the beginning, and this is how, like, sometimes it seems kind of painful a little bit, but because you're so explicit, but that's exactly what they mean.
Oh, God, for sure.
Okay, what's the second sound that you hear in gum? What letter makes the sound? Okay, let's put U in the second box. Okay, what is the third sound or the last sound that you hear in gum? What letter makes the sound? M. Let's put M in the last box. Okay, now we've got our letters for each of our sounds. We have this word segmented. So now what we want to do is after they fill in the boxes like this, then have them write the word underneath it. And you say, okay, now you've got good, let's go ahead and write the word gum underneath. And then what they're doing is they're recognizing the letters and the sounds, and then they also recognize that, oh, these individual letter sounds form a word, and this is the word. And then what that also does is it's like, oh, okay, so when they're come up on a word on their own and they don't really know how to spell it, then they can think and hopefully back up and do that process in their head. Eventually, is what you want them to do. Okay, so
Will you go ahead and change out your beginning consonant? Like, would you do that and have them, erase the G
yes,
and make it? You go ahead and do it like this.
Yeah. I would, again, depending on your students, I would start out with the plastic letter manipulation and then move to this. But yeah, I would do that. So then, because if you do just like this next one, and then enter a different letter, then that would be okay, because you want them to be able to see that relationship, to not have to sound out every sound every time. Every time.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
And I mean, when I first started teaching, and that was one of the things that kind of blew my mind. It was like, when you're working on, you have those AN words. And after about the 5th or 6th one, and they're still sounding out and I'm like, you just said this 5 times, it's the same thing.
I family for like a month.
Oh, honey.
Oh, gosh.
Gosh, I family like you want
Yes,
now.
me too.
Yes.
They're still in you.
No. And I'm like,
I did
seriously?
not give y'all an eraser. I just realized that.
Okay.
And then the same thing for like when we were pushing the coins like with sheep. So let's do one like that too. Sheep is up on the wall. So let's just do wish. Okay. So now, okay guys, with the word wish, how many sounds do you hear in wish?
3.
3. What ish? So let's draw 3 boxes, because remember, these are sound boxes. We draw a box for each sound that we hear. Okay, so in wish, what is the first sound that we hear?
What?
What was it?
What?
What is it?
What?
It's hard.
Yeah, the W is so hard.
Yeah.
And like the L. The L's hard too. The O instead of
Because
it's an O.
yeah, it's hard.
Yes.
But if you do your mouth formation with L, it will cut that out because you don't move your tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, it won't let you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so what letter makes the sound?
W.
W. So let's put a W in the first box. Oh my gosh, it's past time. Anyway, so you go and you do the same process, but then at the end, okay, what's the last sound that you hear? Shh. And what letters? And then you put both letters in that same box because it's that sound. And then you have them write it underneath it. Okay? I'm gonna call myself Denny Paul. All right, girls. I will tell you this activity that I was going to do. You may want to do it with your students. We ran out of time, but what I was going to have y'all do with this is like after we get done, take 3. Like say you were going to make. You just got done with this session, and you were going to put on Facebook something about this session. You know, like how we do. We go on vacation. It was awesome. Blah blah blah. So I was going to let you come up with a Facebook post and just real short and concise. If you were posting this, what would be 3 things that you would take away and post about the session that you just had? So you might can do something like that, and you can design it, you know, whatever, and put emojis. But that's what I was going to have y'all do for this. But you can take these if you want to use it for your class or something like that. So, all right, girls, that's all I have.